Well, on 9/11, I was in my office at Trinity, Wall Street, about 3 blocks south of the South Tower when the first plane hit. We thought it was an accident. You know, how could it be anything other than an accident? So I went to the window, I looked out and I saw all these papers coming down. It looked like a ticker tape parade, except the edges of the papers were burned, and we knew at that point that something major had happened. So I ran up the street to see what I could do to help out, and just as I got to Liberty Street, right about where Burger King is, the second plane hit the South Tower, and literally I had to run for my life at that point. I ran back to my office, got there eventually, and began helping with the evacuation of the children from our preschool from the 3rd floor where the school was into the basement. We were just thinking, you know, standard safety procedure. By the time we got all the children downstairs, the first tower collapsed, and it filled our building up with thick, black, heavy smoke, and we couldn't see, we couldn't breathe. At that point, we knew we had to make a run for it, so we each grabbed a child. I carried a little girl named Jasmine, and we ran out the back door of our church office building towards the Staten Island Ferry Terminal, away from the towers. On the way to the Staten Island Ferry, the second tower collapsed, and it just came down and covered us with ashes. So it was a harrowing day, full of fear, anxiety, you know, danger, and grief and loss. We're just overwhelmed. It's indescribable. But then there's 9/12, and this is the message I like to talk about as I travel around speaking about the topic. 9/11 happened, it was covered by every media outlet in the world, but the equally important story is the story of 9/12, when we decided as a people, as a nation, as a city, to get out of bed and respond to those acts of violence and terrorism with hearts of compassion and love and courage, as we tried to find and rescue any survivors, and ultimately to find the remains of all those who died, as many as we could. On September 12th, I walked down from my apartment on 8th Street and Broadway to St. Paul's Chapel, expecting every step of the way to see that St. Paul's was demolished. When I got to the mayor's office there, courthouse and all that, I saw that the steeple was still standing proud. I couldn't believe it. It took my breath away. At that point, I knew that St. Paul's had been spared, not because we're holier than anybody who died, but we'd been spared for a reason. And that reason was to try to do anything we could to serve the community that would be looking for survivors and for looking for the remains of the dead. So we were privileged over 8.5 months to serve over 500,000 meals. We had massage therapists, chiropractors, we had grief counselors, we had podiatrists set up working around the clock. We had musicians singing 3 and 4 times a day, offering support and encouragement to the men and women who were doing such incredible work at the site. It was our privilege to do that, and it created a community of courage and compassion, in which we had federal judges who were thrilled to serve coffee to sanitation workers, and Wall Street bankers excited about serving a sandwich to a police officer or a firefighter. And it was just a community of love, a community of gratitude, because we were so grateful we could do something to help out in this great tragedy. And after 8.5 months, we closed the doors, and the 9/11 community continues on. We try our best to find closure. We try our best to find a new way of being and to cope with the tragedy that has happened to us. We face our fears, we face our griefs with courage. We say our prayers, and we work for a new future. It really was a privilege to serve at St. Paul's. It'll be the privilege of a lifetime for me. It was really a glimpse of the kingdom of God at work for people of all religions and all perspectives and all socioeconomic levels and all ethnicities came together to work for good and for love and for compassion.
Out of a tragedy, what was it?
And out of a tragedy came transformation. It was absolutely amazing. And that's the symbol of hope we need to hold up now.